How you doing, friends? It's good to see you. I know you usually see me standing and speaking, but today we're going to do something a little different. I have a good friend of mine here by the name of Larry Walters, and today we're going to talk about making good choices and how important it is to make good choices. And my good friend Larry is going to expand and explain how it's so important that we make good choices. But Larry, will you briefly introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Larry Walters, and I have been doing this type of work in the field of health and wellness for about 15, going on to actually close to 20 years now. And the reason why I am so passionate about doing this kind of work is because my mother was sick for about 20 years, and I took care of her, and I saw the adverse effects of not eating a certain way or making good choices. So I went on a journey to research and understand what is it that will help maintain a good, healthy life. And so that's what we're going to be talking about today.
And on that note, let's get right into it. Making health choices. One of the main ones is eating a balanced diet. Now, how should we go about, well, what is eating a balanced diet and how should we go about doing that?
Well, that's a good question. Just to start off, to kind of give this little disclaimer about what is nutrition, the body itself does not recognize food as we see food. Like I said, eating a hamburger to anything from an apple.
Okay.
All the body recognizes is nutrients that we gain from the food. Anything that we eat should nourish our cells. So, with that said, we should eat things from all aspects. From like I say, let your plate be like a rainbow, because every color in the foods we eat have different nutritive value. Like in red foods are high in vitamin C. The red pepper, apples, cherries are very high in vitamin C. Carrots are loaded with beta carotene, great for your eyes. Tomatoes are good would help with heart health, and lycopene for men. Hey, men out there who are in their 50s like myself, we need that lycopene for good prostate health. So with all that said, I could spend more time in a future episode, but we need to eat things that are nutrient dense to maintain good health.
And I see the importance of that. Now, in that, it leads me to the next question. What about foods that are what they would say processed foods or foods that sugar, high in sugar, sugar drinks? How should we deal with those?
Well, I mean, once again, being that that's still in the area of nutrition, we should really, like I said, hey, I get have a drink of juice from time to time or something that's processed from time to time, but I try to limit it and not make it be the biggest part of my meal and let it be all the time.
Okay.
Because let's face it, we do live in a generation of fast food.
Yeah.
It's convenience, and I get that. Some of us are so busy, and so it's easy to just run by a fast food place or grab things that are easy in a container, but we need to be very careful of what we consume, because if you can't read something on a label, you should be pretty wary of that label. One of my models is if you can't read it, you probably shouldn't eat it. So
Talk about reading being fundamental.
yeah. So, and because unfortunately we live in a day and age where a lot of people are having a lot of different health problems because of things they don't recognize, and the body doesn't know how to recognize it either. And as far as juices and all those things, you probably should get your nutrients from the fruit and not the fruit juice.
Right.
Now I like a good glass of, apple juice or grape juice from time to time, but I try to incorporate eating more of the fruit because the fruit has the fiber content in it.
Okay.
So we kind of lose that. And for a little plug-in for those who are maybe suffer from diabetes, that's why sugars spike when you don't have the fiber that helps to slow that glucose from spiking the days. You need fiber in your foods, and the only place fiber is found is in whole plant foods.
So that's just where
Right.
it's more important to deal with the whole plant food
Right.
instead of processed food.
Exactly.
Now, with that, because you touched on a point in terms of drinking water. Now, how staying hydrated, drinking water. What's the aspects in terms of how much water we should
Oh,
drink
man.
and things of that nature?
I wish I can get into it, but we'll get into it in another episode. But I'll say this: we should get at least, like where I work right now, we ask our clients to do about 8 to 10 glasses of water.
Okay.
Because most people, unfortunately, are chronically dehydrated. And there's a whole presentation on this that we'll give another time, but I'll say this: most people are not drinking enough water.
Right.
So you need to drink, and I want to say this: don't drink water when you're thirsty. Because when you drink water when you're thirsty, you're already dehydrated.
So when you drink water when you're thirsty, you're already dehydrated?
Yes,
How,
yes.
how is that?
Well, I mean, you should be drinking water all throughout the day, first
Got
of all.
you,
I mean,
got you.
from the time you rise in the morning, in which that's where you get the bulk of your water. You drink a good amount of water to get your flush out your system,
Mhm.
to get your digestive system working, because water equals energy, Andrew.
Right.
I mean, how do you think we power our electrical systems with big dams of water?
Yeah, that's
So
a good point.
water equals electricity, but we don't get enough. Our brains are 82% water. Our
Right.
bodies are about 65 to 70% water, but yet most people don't. And then they have such a deficit, and then they'll may at the end like, oh my goodness, I haven't drank enough water. So they'll guzzle down a whole glass at the end of the day, and you know that you pretty much it meant nothing, because when you drink a lot of water at one time, it didn't make up for what you didn't get earlier.
That makes sense. That's why I asked you when you said that, but now it makes total sense that if you didn't drink water and now you're drinking because you're thirsty, it's because of the lack of water that you had
Right.
inside of you. So
Exactly.
that's so important.
And there's a lot of problems that come along with being dehydrated, foggy brain, sleeplessness, irritability. This is science.
Right.
Irritability,
Well, we see why some people
lack of exactly a lack of energy.
Yes.
But we'll go for, and I'm not here to put down any particular company, but we'll go get energy drinks
Right.
to gain that energy when nature's natural energy drink is water.
That's so funny. We always want to go for the supplement
Yes.
instead of getting the original.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
Instead of going to Christ, we go to everything else.
Exactly. And you could research everything I'm saying. I mean, it's
Yeah.
out there. So yeah.
Okay.
I'll just stick with that. So 8 to 10 glasses of water. Some science says half your body weight.
Right.
You know, and one way to know that you are not dehydrated, your urine should be clear or at a very pale color.
Right.
If you find that after using the restroom that your urine is very dark and real colorful, then that means you're very dehydrated.
So you need to be drinking water
All throughout the day, not one large amount one time and then maybe later on.
Right.
It should be drinking all throughout the day, and not with your food, in between your meals. I don't want to get too heavy. That we have a whole segment that we'll talk about that, where we get deeper into the science.
Well, what you said is good. Is a good enough for right now.
Yes.
Knowing that you should just drink it throughout the day, and you won't drown. It'll just be keeping you energized.
That's
and
right.
Keeping you up.
Exactly.
Now, with speaking of energize, get into exercise.
Mm.
How regularly should we exercise? What is the aspects of that? Because we always hear, exercise, the takes on that. What would you say about that?
I mean, first of all, I think they say about 30 minutes a day, a minimum of
Mhm.
30 minutes a day. I think they say 5 miles. That equals about 5 miles. But one thing I want to say about exercise, because sometimes when you hear people say exercise, oh my goodness, I have to join a gym or I have to do all these, real extreme exercise, and then that's fine. If those who want to do the extreme exercises, but just good exercise that you can get is just walking,
Okay, walking.
because it's low impact.
Mm-hmm.
It uses all parts of your body, and it helps to burn calories. It's easy on the body, or gardening. Those who love to garden, because you're stretching, you're moving your body, and it's not hurting you.
So those aspects of actually movement.
Right, there you go.
The movement is a very important, not just as they would say, sitting on the couch and moving your hand to your mouth.
There you. That's or the remote control.
Or the remote control.
Or video games for kids.
Yeah. And that having some
Mhm.
mobility movement where you're actually moving, making your muscles operate
Exactly.
is the exercise. So like you said, even if you don't have access to the gym, just walking around the block or down the street.
Right, exactly. Walk your pet or whatever. And I wanted to throw this in before I forget this thought. There's research out there saying that sitting all day long, the lack of exercise,
Yeah.
and I have a graphic I show when I do my full presentations, that they say sitting all day long without little movement is like the new smoking.
Oh, okay.
And then this graphic I show all the various parts of the body that are affected. Bad back and different parts of your organs are affected by not moving. One wise person put it this way, that perfect health depends upon perfect circulation. If you're not moving, the lymphatic system, which is that sewage system of the body,
Right.
is not able to move. The blood, the circulation is not flowing through your body as well because you're sitting stagnant in a crunched up situation. I mean, just paint you a picture. The average American, because in our forefathers' age, they worked all day in the field.
Right.
But now,
Literally.
the average person now, they sleep all day or sleeping through the night, wake up, sit in a car for a commute,
Right.
go to sit in a chair for 8 to 10 hours a day, with maybe go to a break or the restroom, then go to sit in your car to go home, to sit on the couch to watch your TV show with your TV dinner, and to go to bed, and it's a vicious cycle.
Right. So I see.
And so they're saying that a lot of chronic illnesses are because of a lack of movement. The research is out there. I'm giving you research without giving you the cited sources, but just research that.
And it makes sense because you said the blood needs to circulate.
Yes.
And with the sitting in that position all the majority of the time, the circulation is not being used.
Right. And to real quick go back to water, the same principle. Water helps to transport, I didn't mention this earlier, transport nutrients through the body as well. And so when you have a sluggish system and you're not drinking enough water, that's why we have a lot of heart disease.
Gotcha.
That's where diabetes comes in, because we're not getting enough of that fat out of the system. We're not getting enough of the keeping the blood thin.
Right.
And that's where hypertension comes in.
And we see the connection. Like you said, you brought it back to water, but showing it's connected with exercise.
Exactly.
All this, everything is connected.
Yes.
Now, we're drinking water, we're exercising. What about sleep?
Oh my goodness.
Because
Yes.
now with all
Yes.
that, there's going to be a point where you do need to rest.
Yes.
But do people get enough rest?
I mean, according to research, most people are chronically sleep deprived. Just like chronically dehydrated, a lot of people are chronically sleep deprived. They say a lot of the major accidents that we see from major, some of these, there was an oil tanker incident that happened where there was like a major incident. It was because of sleep deprivation.
Okay.
Car crashes, most of them, they say, outside of the drunken ones, or people are chronically sleep deprived, so they're impaired. So they're not noticing that a car is right in front of them. That's why I think someone said it, that if you feel sleepy and you're driving, especially if you're traveling, pull over.
My father used to tell me that. He said
Yeah.
when I started driving, he said, if you're tired, pull over.
Yes.
And it's so true. I see what you're talking about, because people will say, I can go without sleeping. That's a fact. That's a falsity when they're saying that they can go without sleeping, because your body is going to shut down.
Yeah.
So it's better to have the proper amount than your body shutting down because you didn't get
Right.
the amount of sleep.
Right.
So what would be, you say, is the range of a good, like hours of sleep that a person should
Well,
get?
they say, in research about 7 to 9 hours, but I want to mention that all sleep is not equal.
Right.
So let's say I went to bed, let's say every night at 1 o'clock in the morning and woke up at 9 o'clock. Is that good sleep? Well, according to research, that the best sleep is the hours prior to midnight, because every hour prior to midnight, you get double the hours. So let's say I go to bed, because this is one thing we use at the health center I work at. We get people to try to get to bed around about 9-ish, if not 10, and those hours prior to midnight, they get double.
Okay.
And a lot of them wake up at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, like, oh my goodness, it's still too early. They thinking they're not sleeping long enough. No, you got 8 hours of sleep.
Because of the time.
Because the double of, and not only they get double, but it's the quality of it. Because a lot happens in the mind when you're going into that restful sleep. A lot of repair goes on. Your brain flushes out a lot of the old cells in your brain. There's a lot we have to get to at a later session, but 7 to 9 hours, you should get that amount.
And like you said, because you get that time that you start to go to sleep, it gives your body the strength to repair itself because it's actually relaxing.
Yes.
So that's a good point. So all those out there, you can't be staying up all late watching TV or going to, these night things. Sleep is very important. It's very, very important.
Matter of fact, a lot of people, they say they suffer depression because of that. Because when you don't get good sleep, you're irritable.
Right.
You cause a lot of depression. It also causes weight gain. And we'll get into it in another session
And
why you cause a lot
I
of
like
weight.
the way they all connected because, like
Yes.
you said, with the water circulation,
Yes.
irritability, same thing with sleeping, same thing with not eating properly.
Yes.
We see how all of them are connected.
Yes.
So, okay, now we got into sleep. Now here's another hot topic: alcohol.
Oh,
And now I know we may be stepping on some toes when we talk about alcohol, but we gotta talk. We gotta talk about it. We gotta be real and honest about it.
yeah.
What is the status about alcohol? What is the take on alcohol? Some people say having a little a shot of alcohol,
Little wine,
little
for
wine,
the-
little wine.
yeah,
We'll
helps-
do, we
for
heard
the-
all
for
these
heart health.
colloquials. You do your heart. Would it really do your heart good, or it does the opposite?
Well, first of all, I mean, like I said, we can't get too heavy, but I'll say this much. First of all, when they say it's good for heart health, the chemical resveratrol, which is the agent within the wine.
Wait, say that again.
Resveratrol.
Okay, make sure you
Resveratrol.
Okay.
that actually is the part of it that helps with heart health.
Okay.
But guess where it's found? It's found in the skin of red grapes.
All right. Did you hear that?
So
It's found in the skin of red grapes.
So the red wine that you're drinking, that you're getting that heart healthy factor is in. So eat the grape and skip the alcohol.
And that's why I wanted you to say
You know.
that.
Now I know that's going to be disruptive to some people,
To say the least.
but no amount of alcohol. And this is in research. No amount of alcohol is good for you.
Right.
I mean, it's been proven that alcohol on any level does interrupt with many other. I can't get heavy into it, but it even kills brain cells.
Okay.
And you got to understand where a lot of these. You got to understand where you get the research where they said this is good for you, this is good for you. Who's sponsoring that research?
That's a good point.
The principles that we teach, the New Start principles, this acronym that we are getting all of this information from, are basic principles that never change.
Right.
A lot of things that are out there, a lot of these trends that we deal with, whether it be exercise or supplements or whatever, what I teach are from principles that you can't put in a bottle.
Gotcha.
You can't package. No one has the market on it. It's just what God gave.
Right.
Water, good sleep, eating foods that come from the ground.
Right.
But you got to understand some of this clever marketing that people are just marketing products and telling you, but there's a healing part in that. But you got to understand you can't, we're going to talk about a principle called temperance in another time.
Yeah.
And I'll just give you a sneak peek. Temperance is doing things that are good for you and abstaining from things that are harmful to you.
Right. And that's why it says moderation.
Right. See, we got to be careful of that word moderation, because you can say, well, I just moderately do this.
Right.
I moderately do that.
Exactly.
And to justify doing things that may not be good for you, but just say, just do it in moderation.
Exactly.
You
That's
know,
a good
You got to
point.
understand where that comes from.
And it goes back to your point where they said people are packaging things to
Right.
just suit their whatever they're
Right.
trying to promote.
Right.
Whereas the principles that God put out there
Yes.
don't change no matter the time or
Right.
setting.
Exactly.
It's the same thing, and that's why it's so beneficial for us.
That's right.
So that's so good to know about alcohol consumption. Like you said, instead of drinking the wine, eat the grape.
That's right.
The unfermented grape, you'll get
That's
it
right.
instead of waiting until it's spoiled to say, well, now I'm getting the nutrients I need.
Right. I mean, even this, being that we're here on this channel, even the Bible says wine is a mocker,
Right.
strong drink is raging,
Exactly.
and he that partakes is not wise.
Exactly.
I mean, that's the word of God. I didn't make that up.
Right. So, like God said, be wise. Now, we talked about alcohol. So, I guess this would be a no-brainer when it comes to smoking, tobacco, and things of that nature.
Yeah, that's pretty much no brainer. Even they let you know the Heart Association and the lung cancer that it does cause lung cancer. Even the disclaimer on the packaging. So,
Right. It's true. It's true. They'll say.
So I think that's when we can kind of give that.
And I think what's so important is, like you said, well, we're going to get into it, but certain things lead to doing certain things. And you was pointing out, if you get being irritable, being upset causes you to sometimes use aspects to deal with that problem. Whereas, like you was pointing out, if you get the proper amount of sleep, if you
Right.
drink a proper amount of water, if you eat properly, then you would refrain from those things. So that's why you wouldn't want to use tobacco or alcohol
Right.
or these supplements to
Right.
deal with these
Right.
problems. So that's a good point. Now, the reason why I say that is because we're going into the next one, managing stress. What are the techniques to help manage stress?
I mean, there's a lot of things we can do. There's things that you could do from anything from, once again, walking, being out in nature. There's even some research they were done where they actually, I think it was in Japan, they would take people out into nature, and they found that there's this chemical that's found in the trees called phytoncide. We'll get into it in another episode, but where it's a healing agent from the trees. Now it's funny, it's a repellent for insects, but it's healing for humans.
that's interesting.
Yeah.
That's
And so what
interesting.
they would do is they would do what they call forest bathing. They would take people into the nature and let them lay in hammocks, and it would cause just this healing. And the same thing with even being out near beaches and things like because those negative ions cause a relaxed effect.
Okay.
But yeah, just being out in nature.
Okay.
Go for a walk. Sometimes we're so in the cities where, the hustle and bustle of life, it's overstressing. And we were meant to just be in that crazy, hectic type environments all the time.
Right. We weren't made.
We
for
were
that.
made for that. So that's why we have a lot of people that are stressed. They go home stressed, which affects sleep.
Right.
So walking, getting out in nature, go walk your dog. Go to the park, go for a swim, read a good relaxing book, sunbathe. There's so many just basic, simple things that don't cost really any money.
Right.
Go for a drive in the country. We're here in the South. I love it here. There's a lot of nature, a lot of parks. Just do things that are just very natural, very, organic. Just you don't have to spend really any money to do it.
And I
ahead.
think
No, go
that's a good point. We always think when we to do these things, we need to have money. But
Right.
there's a lot of things that you could do that sometimes we take for granted. We don't
Right.
realize it's to our disposal. Like you said, a walk.
Yeah.
Even if you're in quote unquote a rough neighborhood, there's still aspects where you could take a little walk somewhere where you could kind of avoid the little stress.
Exactly.
And we don't know if you're running.
Right, exactly.
You're using the muscles and stuff. So that's good in terms of stress. Now, with all of that, and we were talking about eating and things of that nature, what about your weight? Because
Okay.
all this, we have to look at body consumption.
Right. Mm-hmm.
How is maintaining a proper weight? How does that fall into the whole nuances of everything?
Now, we kind of talked about a little bit in the exercise segment. We were talking about two, I think I like to call it, those who want to go out and grab that bottle of,
Red Bull?
well, no, not so much Red Bull as it is these suppressants, these appetite suppressants.
Oh, right,
and
right.
Things like that. I teach a whole segment on exercise and weight loss, and water and walking are some of the biggest things that help with that. Because the water, I'm gonna go back to water, because water is nature's appetite suppressant.
Okay.
Because when you drink it, I don't know if I mentioned in that segment, we talked about water, but when you drink water throughout the day, especially a half an hour before your meals, because there's what's called stretch receptors in your stomach.
Now, I've heard of that.
Right.
Good.
So what it does, it's the same signal for letting because in your stomach, not to give a real quick history, in your stomach, they're finding in medical research that there's a cluster of brain cells in your stomach, and they call it the gut brain.
Oh, the gut.
So they're finding these cells, or the neural cells in your. So that's how your brain and your stomach communicate to let you know that you're not hungry, or if you're hungry. So that same stretch receptors in your stomach, when it's full from water, it's the same thing that lets you know that, hey, I don't need any more food. So when you're drinking plenty of water throughout the day, it keeps you from over consuming food.
Okay.
Which in turn means you're consuming fewer calories, which in turn means you're going to lose weight. And drinking water also helps even to break down some of the fat cells that are already in your body.
It's interesting when you said the brain in your stomach. It's like they're saying you think with your stomach.
Yes.
So I
It's the-
see
they
how.
didn't realize how much truth that was in that statement.
And then also when you said the stretching, that's medically shown too, because we see like with weight and stuff like
Yeah.
that, how it stretches. So these are some good points in terms of how to maintain weight. And I guess that would lead into having regular checkups and healthcare and things of that nature, right?
What's that? If you already have a provider or you're seeing someone, definitely do that, on a regular basis, so to kind of see where you are in your health. So, and then because I'm into natural more than conventional, and is that when you do find out that you have some type of problem, they can at least tell you where you need to make changes. And I do espouse really find a really good doctor that believes in, natural, so that you can maintain good health. You don't have to take drugs all the time.
Right.
Because if you're eating right, exercising, getting a good sleep, drinking plenty of water, and having a good mindset, because hey, stress can wreak havoc
Right,
on the mind.
right.
So, because the mind and the body are intimately connected. When one's affected, the other sympathizes, one author says. And they're finding that 78 to 90% of most doctor visits are because of what's going on in the mind.
Right.
Stress wreaks havoc on your system.
Because they're connected.
Yes.
And that's a good point what you said about how going for checkups. Nobody's saying not to consult your doctor.
That's right.
The key is having this type of lifestyle connected with your medical provider,
Yes,
because that will keep you in a more healthier mode.
exactly.
So that's important. I'm glad you said that, because we don't want nobody to think that, oh, throw out your doctor. No, still communicate with your medical
That's
provider.
right. That's right.
It's just in doing this, even your medical provider will see the better results
Right.
in your life.
Right. Because what I am saying is this: what people need is more education, not more medication.
That's so
See,
true.
the more educated you are, the less you have to take it.
Exactly. That's right. And education goes a long way.
That's right.
Especially in this. We're coming close to a close. Now, when you look at making, because we're about to wrap it up, we're going to wrap up now.
Okay.
How would you summarize making health choices? And we got like 2 minutes. How would you summarize it?
Anytime you make any of these, all the things that we've been discussing over the past 30 minutes here is that it's about making small incremental changes, Andrew. It's not about, like, oh my goodness, I need to go home and just clean out my refrigerator. I need to start, working out all this. No, make small, sizable changes, because when you make small, sizable changes, that's going to be more lasting.
Right.
The mind cannot make a mental leap to try to, okay, I need to like stop eating all this. And I need to work out, an hour a day. No, just start little by little. If you can't, you're not walking at all, just walk up the block. If you're going to bed at 1 o'clock in the morning chronically and not going to bed at, let's say, 9 or 10, start going backwards. Maybe
Right.
tonight go to bed at 12:30, the next day 12:15. Then little by little, there was a gentleman who actually was overweight 100 pounds, and his dietitian told him go home and eat a piece of fruit every day. And that piece of fruit every day caused them to lose 100 pounds. Because little by little,
Right.
he did small changes to change his taste buds for something more natural.
And I want to thank you for that. And as Larry pointed out, making good choices can be a challenging task, but it's essential for our growth. And as Larry pointed out, if you take little steps in making healthy choices, you could see, in terms of the long-term effect, you'll see a drastic change in the long-term effect.
Yes, right, exactly.
So it's important, and that's what we want to leave it on. Making good choices. Start little, and as you'll see, it'll start to grow further and further.
That's right.
And on that note, we'll be back later, where on our next segment, we'll be able to elaborate more on making good choices.